Welcome back to the This Day podcast. Today on the podcast, we have Christian Americana duo Virginia Lou. I am so excited to introduce you to these sweet friends. But before we head into today's podcast, we have a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. BetterHelp is an incredible tool if you are somebody that struggles with their mental health. BetterHelp can offer you around-the-clock therapy so that you can talk to somebody no matter the time of day. They are ready and available there to serve you. You can use our code to receive 10% off your first month of therapy. Yeah, y'all. Okay, so introduce yourselves. I'm so excited to have both of you ladies on the podcast. Why don't you give yourselves an introduction? Your band name is Virginia Lou, but one of you guys isn't named Virginia and the other isn't named Lou.
That's right.
Share a little bit, introduce each of yourselves, and yeah.
Okay, I'm Madeline.
I'm Lindsay.
And yeah, Virginia Lou. Our band name is named after our grandma, and we call her Mama. And yeah, we are excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
I am so stoked. So one of the questions that we ask everybody that hops on the podcast is what is keeping you present during this day? Because so much comes for our attention. So much tries to come and just steal our focus. So what keeps you guys present?
You want to start?
I would say journaling and staying in the word is super important to me because there's a lot of noise and lies and truth and people's self-truth, and it's
Right.
there's the truth and you're trying to all for it to sort it out. And I just usually just journal and put my thoughts down, and I go into the word and really figure out what I'm trying to think and what is real.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true.
Absolutely.
I guess for
That is so
me, it's just prayer, saying the word, but just like praying for peace, praying for wisdom, praying for discernment, like Lindsay was talking about. Those are the things that help me stay present.
That's so good. I agree, like with both of you guys. I think it is so hard to maintain that state of just like being focused and being focused on what God is trying to do. Just because there is so much that comes and tries to get our attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But okay, you guys kind of said it in your intro. Your band name is about your grandmother. So give us a little bit of behind the scenes about Virginia Lou, how it came about, just a little BTS.
Yeah, so it's really still pretty recent that we formed a band and teamed up together. It started as an idea for an album for our family.
Yeah.
And we just got together, Lindsay and I, and just started to think about some of the hymns that remind us of our grandma, because we wanted to do an album of hymns to honor her after she passed away. And so we got to talking, and after we kind of decided on the songs that remind us most of her, we got together with our friend Tommy Collier, incredible producer and writer. And he's from down south. He's from the Mississippi Delta. And so he grew up on pretty much all the things that remind us of her. And so we knew he'd be able to capture the sounds that we were going for in this album. And so, yeah, it started as an album name, Virginia Lou. And Tommy, I remember one day he took an interview with
Yeah.
he took an interview with somebody, and the girl was asking like what he's been up to lately. And this was all this wasn't just an audio interview, it was video. And he was like, yeah, been in the studio recording this sister duo band from Texas called Virginia Lou. And I sent to Lindsay.
And I was like, well, I guess we're in a band.
So that he kind of stole our album name and slapped it on as a band name. And so we were like, okay, well, now we have to think of an album name. But anyway, that's kind of it. It was real organic, I think it was just one of those things where we said, okay, God, like in this season, whatever you'd have of us, we'll jump into and we'll do. And me and Lindsay, we've always been collaborative. We've always written together and done projects and side ventures together. So this wasn't really like anything new to jump on this project together. and just to kind of see where it takes us. And again, the soul and the heart of it was to honor our mama. And so we were kind of like never even thought that we were going to market this thing, put it out on streaming platforms, maybe just burn it on a vinyl or a CD and hand it out to like people in our families. Yeah. So it really did. It took on a life of its own.
That's so fun. It is so crazy how like one person, like in just a simple interview, was like,
Yeah.
hey, I'm working with this sister duo, and then like vision took place, you know?
I know, because it wasn't even long after that. Then we got invited to play the Ark, and we were just like, what the heck is going on? Like, this is wild.
Yeah, it was just, yeah, like she said, it was very organic. We were very much like, what is going on? Okay.
But in a good way.
No, yeah, in a great way. It's just like, okay.
That's insane. Like most people, I feel like they spend so much time like in the planning phase, like when they're getting ready to launch something like a band or whatever. And you guys, it just came so organic that you were like, okay, like if this is what we're gonna do, we're gonna do it. Like we're gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
That's great. And you have your first single out now called
Mhm.
Precious Memories. Kind of, I mean, you led into what went into it, which was just such an organic, like God ordained moment. But talk a little more about the single and what it means to y'all.
Yeah. So actually on the single, it has a recording of our grandma singing in there with us, which makes it super special to us, is why we kind of released it the first one. Like where everything originated from is for her. And when we heard the recording, we just thought, well, Madeline, she heard this and was like, we have to do something with this. And we didn't even realize that, you know, what we could do with it because we do not know engineering or anything like that. We're like, hi, can you do that? Like, what can we do, Tommy, to like fit this in? And it's basically just us like singing harmonies and singing with her. And it's such a crazy thing that you can do nowadays that we are so blessed to be able to create something like that. I just feel like that's just so special. And so with our first one, we decided to do Precious Memories, and it really has that tone of just home.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just told Tommy, you know, like, they were what the story is, it's like from the 50s. It's her and her mom and her siblings around an old organ, in one of the little rooms in their home. And so they had just kind of, I guess, put on a tape player recording or something. So there was no like time measure. They were just free flowing Precious Memories. So we were like, okay, Tommy, what can you do with this? So he was like, you know, he was like, we can use this, like, absolutely. And so obviously we were excited. And so when you listen to it, now that it's out and it's on radio and streaming, it's the intro part where you hear them singing together. And then it goes into kind of like our I guess our just like, because overall on the album, we also kind of have like a little bit of our flair incorporated into it. And so we kind of thought about all the traditional sounds of Precious Memories that other artists have done throughout the years, whether that's George Jones or Loretta Lynn, all the greats, right? And then we kind of were like, okay, what's our spin and what reminds us of home, as Lindsay was saying. And so that's really how Precious Memories became the first single and how we kind of approached it in the studio.
Wow, that's great. I love it. And it is such a good, like that song in general is just such a good, like home feel good song that remind you of like the old days, like when your grandparents were around, when you were just at grandma and grandpa's house. Like it just makes you feel those memories again. So what a fun song to release with like the launch of your like brand.
Yeah, yeah. And we found out it's turning 100 years old next year. So that was pretty cool.
That's so fun. That's so fun. So many cool things in store. Now, I want to go back to being a duo was not really like the plan for y'all. That like it being a duo was not the plan at all for you guys. Madeline, you were like a manager doing business things. Lindsay, you were pursuing the solo thing. how have you seen God just come in to the story to develop this duo for y'all?
That's a good question.
I kind of feel like we've always been a duo. Like maybe it isn't necessarily in the like light of things duo, but ever since we were younger, like Madeline was doing this, like the management stuff alone and stuff, but I was like in school not knowing what I wanted to do yet. But when I made that decision to do music, we wholeheartedly did it together. Like we write together, we plan things, we do like all the like sketchings and everything together. And whether it was me doing solo stuff or like her managing people and, managing like and having ideas, like we've always bounced things off of each other. So I feel like this wasn't anything different. It was just us being like in front of people actually and doing it like hey, like because we've always really done it together. So I just feel like it's just really special and really cool to be able to like sing together,
I know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I echo that like 100%. Like there's so many different ways. And I kind of alluded to that earlier that we've been a team. Maybe it was a bit more behind the scenes, but now you kind of get to see how involved we've been with each other's lives and creatively as well. So yeah, it's special.
Absolutely. I think that's so good. I think it's good that you leaned into the fact that like you were always a duo. So oftentimes people just see like the duo as like the front end of like the Maddie and Tays or like you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
two people like artists. But truthfully, like you guys, like you said, Lindsay, you have always been like Madeline's always been there to support you like from the business end of things, and now you get to do it together, do everything like you have been doing, but vocally and all the things together.
yeah, exactly.
Now, you guys are, don't want to say you're starting out, but you are starting this new adventure um, together. What would you say to encourage the person that is like just starting from scratch, from the very beginning? What advice would you give them?
It's good. You want to go first?
There you go.
I think for me, and I'm only giving this advice because I did it myself, is to really ask God like who you are. Open up the word, read what he says about you. Um, Understand that every person is created on purpose for a purpose. Um, and that we are all given gifting and there's such a uniqueness to each individual person. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have a mission that he wanted to use you specifically for, And so I would just say like pray, read. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, start asking questions, start getting curious. It's okay to be unsure. I would just say to continue to try to pursue truth because absolute truth is only found in Jesus Christ. And so I would say, yeah, start there.
Yeah. And I think that also another good thing is I think a lot of times the comparative game where you see, okay, well, if I choose to be a singer, or maybe I choose to be anyone that's in the industry, I see where that person is. So if I'm not there, that means I'm not doing anything good. And that's so wrong. It's a lie because the thing is like whether you're small or medium or wherever your size is, it's about your message, and whenever your message has a heart and has it, like she says, a purpose. That's so important because you could be sitting in front of 5 people, and we've done that. We sat in front of like 4 people. We've sat in front of 100 people. We've sent more people than that. I mean, it just matters that like one person, you could change one person's life. And isn't that what it's all about, right? For us, it's about, sharing the gospel and our testimony and being able to have those conversations with people. And it's a great way to start that talk with our music. It's the opening of it. And so whenever you have those situations and you compare yourself, it gets into your head and we're like, well, I'm not Taylor Swift. Well, not a lot of people are because that's insane. And it's very competitive. And it's just like, and you start to think like, well, once you get to that point, you're going to see someone else larger. And you're like, well, I'm not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you just are confident in what your purpose is and who you are, like she says, and just be joyous and find peace and happiness in life, every little road along the way, wherever the journey leads, you're going to be content with because you're doing it for the right thing.
Yeah. And I had somebody tell me once, like, to a believer, our success is our obedience to God. So I would just ask yourself, like, where am I in life? Am I being obedient to the call that He's put on me or not?
That's really good. That'll definitely impact some people for sure. So what is next for you guys? What do you guys have coming down the line? What's happening next?
Yeah. So, I mean, just naturally writing. We've been writing like all the time. And so the natural progression is to start recording again. And I think that's really excites us truly because, you know, we have this first album and the first single's out now, but more will be to come off this album, Little Sparrow. But when we start recording again at the top of the year, it's gonna be really exciting to pour in to the production, the things that inspire me, the things that inspire Lindsay, and just kind of see how musically it comes together. Because we're just trying to give people an authentic glimpse at who we are, and I think that it's gonna be a really cool project we're working on.
Very cool. Well, we're so excited. I'm cheering you on.
Thank you.
How can people keep up with you guys? Like, how can they follow your journey? How can more people join your journey if they want to support you guys? Where can they find y'all?
You can find us at virginialou.com. And then everywhere on social media, Virginia Lou Music. We're on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, all the things. And yeah, as far as supporting the ministry goes, like we kind of started something early on that we were convicted about with our merch. We don't have prices on our merch table. It's all donation based, and it will continue to be that way. And so there's a bunch of ways that you can support our ministry. You can pray, you can give, and we go through all the messages that people send us, emails that we get, and just all the words of encouragement are super helpful to us on this journey. And so we're just grateful for everyone's support.
Oh, well, wonderful. Thank you guys so much for being on the podcast, for sharing your hearts, and for what you guys are doing. I think it's super, super special. So, I cannot wait to see what God does in your story. I think it's going to be great.
Thanks, Megan.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for tuning into the podcast today with country Americana duo Virginia Lou. Make sure you follow them on the socials and stay tuned to our socials for everything that we have going on. And until next time, know that you are so loved.